Hello everyone, welcome to Kemet Maasai Academy. I am here with my friend Dum Dum. So, hi Dum Dum. Dum Dum is saying hi to everyone. So, we're going to be teaching you today about types of nouns, right? So, I promised you when we did our video on the different parts of speech, I told you that each one will be getting its own video, right? And so we're starting with nouns. And like I told you before, each of these parts of speech, so there are 8. And if you're not familiar with what the 8 parts of speech are, just go on over and check the video that was done on all the parts of speech together. So there are 8 of them. We're starting with the nouns. As you know by now, this particular series is geared towards persons who are doing remedial work. So, yes, everybody can watch, everybody can learn, but these particular videos in this series, Back to School for Dummies, is particularly geared at those who are doing remedial work. You're more than likely adults who have missed out on some of the basic fundamental things and you want to catch up, right? So now is the time, this is the place for it. And as you'll be seeing with Dum Dum, he's going to be asking some really dumb questions, but that's what this program is all about. And you too, if you have some dumb questions, don't be afraid to ask. Type it in the comments and let's get it out in the open so we can address these things because that's how we're going to learn. All right, so the topic is nouns, right? Okay. So there are many types of nouns, and we're going to start with the common and proper nouns, right? So as the name suggests, and by the way, in English, not so in some other languages, but in English, we distinguish our common nouns from our proper nouns by the fact that the initial letter, the first letter in the proper noun is written with a capital letter. It is capitalized, right? Uppercase. So we have proper and common. Now there are many types. There is even another kind of noun that is a common noun, but it's different from this common noun. And I'll tell you the difference here. Right. So with the proper nouns, they are names of people, names of places, names of things, even names of animals. So, for example, the word animal itself is common, right? It's a common noun, just a regular noun. But if you were, let's say you have a pet, you have an animal, a pet, and you want to give a name to that pet, then the name of the pet. So let's say, here's my friend Dum Dum. Dum Dum, the word Dum Dum is his name. I would write it with a capital D. It's a proper noun. But the word animal or the word pet or the word toy or the word friend, those are common. Unless, of course, they are part of the name, right? So you could say, for example, if there's a store that sells food for pets, right? And the store owner decided to name the store Pet Store. That's the name of the store. Pet store. Very original, very creative. Pet store. Those two words now would become proper nouns, and they would need to be capitalized. Each of them, the initial letter would be capitalized because it is the name of the pet store. It's the name of the store, pet store. Very brilliant, very creative name. All right, so Dum Dum is the name of my friend. And if I were to write that name, I would have to write it with a capital letter. Like I said, in some other languages, the capitalized letters aren't that much of a thing, right? But in English, absolutely, we show the difference between our proper nouns and common nouns mainly by the capitalization of the initial letter, the first letter in each word. So you have your name. Most of us, we have a Christian name or first name, and we have a surname or a last name. And for many of us, we also have middle names, and we might even have aliases, right? Each of those on its own would begin with a capital letter because it's the name of someone, the name of your school, the name of the city that you live in, the name of your country, the name of your community begins with a capital letter because it is a proper noun, right? So when you think proper, just think name, the name of. Even if it is a pet, if you caught a little worm crawling on your windowsill and you formed a bond with that worm, and you came to the decision that, hey, this little worm is going to be a major part of my life from henceforth, and I want to give him or her a name, and you decide, okay, I'm going to call her Wormy, or I'm going to call her Wormet or Wormia, whatever name you decide to christen the worm, that becomes a proper noun. The word worm itself is a common noun unless you want to name the worm Wormet the worm. All of those together, that's her name. Wormet the worm. Then worm would be proper. So you have to be careful. You have to really understand that if it's the name of a person, the name of a thing, the name of a place, and it can be more than one words, right? And sometimes if the name contains a part of a word that is usually common, but now it has become the name, it has become a part of the name, then no, it is proper, right? So when you think proper, think of it in the English sense, the British sense, proper, formal, official, name. All right, so next we're going to look at abstract and concrete. And you will notice that oftentimes these go in pairs to show opposites, right? Abstract and concrete. All right. So what are abstract nouns? What are concrete nouns? When you think of abstract, what comes to your mind? Have you ever heard that term, abstract? Have you ever heard people talk about abstract art? Right. Generally, when people say abstract art, you're thinking, oh, this is something that I'm going to be looking at it, but I can't really make out what it is. I can't relate it to something that I even have seen before. It's all shapes and splashes and so on, and it's really open to someone's interpretation. All right, so that's the kind of idea you get. All right, so Dum Dum is asking, when you say concrete, do you mean like the concrete that we mix to make blocks? Well, that's actually a very good question. The word concrete was actually used to describe these nouns because no, it's not the mixture, it's not the mortar that you mix with the cement and the gravel and so on, but it's the same kind of idea. As hard and tough as the concrete is, that's why we call these nouns concrete, because they are nouns that you can see and touch and feel the texture of them and interact with them with your senses. You see them, you feel them, you taste them, you smell them. The abstract nouns are different. You can't necessarily see them or touch them or taste them, but they are entities in their own right. Right? They are, a lot of them are things that we use the mind to perceive. We use the imagination to perceive. Those two words themselves are abstract words, abstract nouns. Mind, imagination. Can you touch your mind? Can you see your mind? Can you touch your imagination? No, you cannot. But they are entities, they exist, they are things. Similarly, we could talk about words like memory, feelings, dreams, anything like that, thoughts. So usually the abstract nouns are those that we perceive with our minds, right? We conceptualize them. Unity, friendship, cooperation, those are abstract nouns. They are actually nouns. You can see friendship, you see the effects of it, you see how it expresses itself in the relationship, and that's another abstract word, relationship. So you'll find a lot of abstract nouns ending with ship and shun, right? A lot of them will end with those words. Community, communication, those are abstract nouns. The common nouns, the concrete nouns that you can touch and see and so on, they are more plentiful, right? They're all around us. The chair, the board, the chalk, the uniform, the laptop. These are concrete, right? So dum-dum, they are not concrete in the sense that you're going to use them to build houses. They are concrete in the sense that they are hard, they are tangible, you can hold them, you can manipulate them with your senses. All right, so then we're going to go to two other kinds of nouns, and those are, well, let's talk about possessive nouns, right? Possessive nouns, as the name suggests, have to do with ownership. When you possess something, you own it, right? In English, possessive nouns or ownership is shown by the use of the apostrophe S. So you may have seen words with a little S at the end, and there's something that looks like a comma, but it's all the way up in the air. That is called an apostrophe. And when the S goes with the apostrophe, it shows ownership in English. All right, so there are other parts of speech that show ownership. For example, certain pronouns show ownership. Yours, mine, ours, theirs, right? Possessive pronouns. But if we're using the noun to show this belongs to this person or this belongs to this thing, right? So here I have my ribbons, right? They are my ribbons. These are Kamau's ribbons. So I would write my name, Kamau, and then I would put an apostrophe with the S to show that these ribbons belong to Kamau. This is Dum Dum's cap, right? Dum Dum's cap. So I would write Dum Dum with an apostrophe S to show that the cap belongs to Dum Dum. So that's how we can use the nouns to show ownership of what belongs to that noun. Even if the noun is not a living being, because remember, it's not just people who are nouns or animals that are nouns. Things, places are nouns as well. So a country has a flag, a country has an anthem, the country's flag, the flag that belongs to that country, the country's anthem, the anthem that belongs to that country, right? The table's legs, the book's pages. So don't think that you have to, the noun has to be a living being for something to belong to it. All right. So that's apostrophe. And the apostrophe S, sometimes the S is omitted. If the noun already has an S, sometimes you just put an apostrophe on the outside, right? Or if the noun already has an S in terms of being plural, then you might omit the S and just put the apostrophe on the outside. And that takes us now to number, how nouns show number, how many things. So you have singular and plural. Singular nouns tell you that there is only one of that thing or one of that person, right? So puppet, one puppet. If it was more than one, it would be puppets, right? More than one, puppets. Some nouns don't form their plural simply by adding S or by adding ES. Some special nouns form their plural by changing certain letters in the word. Some nouns actually don't change anything at all. So for example, sheep. Sheep denotes one sheep as well as it could be more than one. We never add an S to sheep. Scissors is always plural because it comes in pairs. So it's a pair of scissors. There is never scissor. There's not one scissor, right? It's a pair of scissors. Trousers is similar. So there are some nouns that they maintain their form and they apply to both singular and plural. Most English nouns will show their number by, without the S, it's singular or one. With the S or ES, depending on the ending, it's more than one. So one church, CHURCH, more than one churches. In this case, we'd add ES, right? But one table, more than one tables, we would add an S. So sometimes you add S, sometimes ES, depending. And we, as usual with English, there can be some really weird exceptions, right? Where you really just have to know these. So for example, one tooth, more than one teeth, not tooths, right? Not tooths. So Dum Dum has two here. He is lucky enough to have two teeth, not two tooths. That's one of the words where you actually change the letters on the inside of the word. So it's from OO to EE. And these ones, you really just have to know them, right? So that's so far we've looked at proper and common nouns. We've looked at abstract and concrete, hard, tangible nouns. We've looked at possessive nouns, which use the apostrophe S. We've looked at how nouns can denote number in terms of singular or plural. So now we're going to look at gender. Nouns differ. Nouns are grouped according to gender. In many languages, there are only two genders for nouns. They're either feminine or masculine. And in a lot of languages, particularly the Western or Latin-derived languages, the feminine is denoted with an A at the end for many words, and the masculine with an O at the end for many words. In English, this is not the case. We have four genders: masculine, feminine, neuter, and common. And this common is different from the common that we discussed in terms of proper and common, right? So for the proper and common, the distinction was the proper had to do with the particular name of the thing, and the common was just the regular words, not names of things. Here, when we talk about gender, we're talking about four categories. So for gender, so we have masculine, feminine, common, and neuter. All right, so let's look at them separately, right? So the masculine nouns in English are those words that denote that we're talking about males, whether humans or animals, or entities that have been personified, given human-like characteristics that are male. So words like male, boy, uncle, man, and even some animals, right, that are specifically male. So lion, tiger, whereas the feminine would be words that are specifically female: lioness or tigress, woman, niece, aunt, grandma, right? Once you hear these words, you know you're going to be encountering a male or a female, depending, right? Then now we have the common nouns in terms of gender. These nouns could be either masculine or feminine, or let me put it this way, it could be either a male or a female. You don't really know until you see the person. So if I say, my mom had a baby yesterday, the word baby, it could have been a male baby or a female baby. I have to see the baby and encounter the baby to know. But just hearing the word baby, I can't tell yet. Same with cousin. Cousin can be a male or a female, right? Teacher can be a male teacher, female teacher. Nurse, doctor, student, tutor. These words are common because just hearing the word, you can't tell. It could be either one. You really have to encounter the person or the thing, the personified thing, to really know for a fact, right? And you can think of lots of these words. So let's call them again. For the masculine, Just think of your family members who are males, nephew, uncle, grandfather, son, brother. All of those are males, masculine gender. For the feminine gender, mother, auntie, niece, sister, daughter, those are feminine. Once you hear the word and you know for a fact, this I'm going to encounter a woman or a girl, those are of the feminine gender. The common gender is those words that you really can't tell just by hearing the word. You can't tell if it's masculine or feminine. It could be either one. So we said baby, friend, student, doctor, teacher, tutor, those words. And in terms of gender, now the common gender are those that can be either one. The neuter comprises all the inanimate objects. In other languages like Spanish and French, for example, inanimate objects have either masculine or feminine gender. So mesa, table, that's feminine, right? Actually, feminine and masculine, even if the thing is not alive. In English, the neuter gender is given to those inanimate objects. So we don't think of our table or chair or car as being masculine or feminine. It's neuter, right? So that's it in terms of gender. The last set of nouns that we're going to look at are collective nouns. And by no means are these the only nouns. Trust me, there are other types of nouns as well. But these are the regular ones that you're going to encounter, right? Collective nouns, right? So what does the word suggest? Collective. So are those things that we collect, are collective nouns necessarily things that we're going to collect, like stamps, the way we collect stamps, or the way we collect antique furniture or something like that? Well, the word collective denotes the fact that we're talking about a lot of things working together as one body. And collective nouns, most times, even though it's many persons or things in acting as one unit, it takes a singular verb. So in English, the noun must match the verb, right? There must be agreement between the noun, the number in terms of singular and plural. It must match up with the verb, singular and plural. For the collective nouns, even though there are many things, if that entity is moving as one unit, it takes a singular verb. There are instances where you can make a difference, where each member in the group is acting on its own, and so the collective noun might take a plural verb, but most times they take singular verbs. So these are words like army. There's many soldiers in the army, but the army is one unit. The army goes, singular verb, right? The army is marching, singular verb is. We don't say the army are marching. Choir, the choir sings, not the choir sing. Typically, more than one things sing, but the choir moves as a unit. The choir sings as a unit. Congregation, audience, staff, team. These are all collective nouns. Spectators would not be a collective noun. Spectators is the plural form of the word spectator. So the spectators are watching, but the audience is watching. So you have to be very careful when it comes to the collective nouns. Remember that they take singular verbs for the most part, right? So those are the types of nouns that we're going to look at today, right? So we had the proper and common nouns, abstract and concrete nouns. We had possessive nouns that show ownership. We had singular and plural nouns that show the number of things. We looked at gender, the gender of nouns, masculine, feminine, neuter, or common. And then we looked at collective nouns, which are group names. And it's not just in terms of humans. We have group names for animals. We have group names for objects, right? The herd, that's a group of cattle, right? The litter of pups, right? Or the litter of kittens. So there are the bunch, a bunch of grapes, a forest of trees. So the forest is in the western part of the island. The forest has many trees. The forest is a collection of trees, but the forest is, not the forest are, right? The bunch of grapes is on the table. There are many separate grapes on the bunch, but it is one bunch. And this is, you have to be careful when you're looking at number in English. What is the focus, right? Is it the individual grapes or is it the bunch? We're talking about the bunch. A flight of stairs, a swarm of bees. So the swarm is, it's many bees, hundreds of bees in the swarm, but they work together as one unit. Right? So this is what we're talking about when we say collective nouns, and there are dozens and dozens and dozens, right? So it's for you to get yourself acquainted with these nouns, all these types of nouns. So next time when we do the language arts again, remember we alternate. So this week it's language arts. Next week we're going to look at mathematics, and then the week after that we come back to English language. So when we're doing language again, we're going to look at the types of verbs and break them down for you. Just like with the nouns, there are many different categories of verbs. That's what we're going to look at when we meet again for language arts. And remember, this particular series is all about remedial, and if you feel like there is something you need to ask and it's dumb, this is the place for you to ask those kinds of questions. Get it off your chest, get it out there. Somebody else might have that same question and need to know, and you are the one who is going to provide the opportunity for things to be clarified. So as dumb as you think that question sounds, I want you to ask it. Write it in the comments. I'll be notified and I'll come back and respond. Until then, until we meet again, this is Kamau and this is my friend Dum Dum, and we'll see you next week.